Ishihara FaceTimed me yesterday and asked my opinion on what Pokemon deserve regional forms in Generation 10. I said anybody but Charizard. He giggled at me and then hung up. Why? Hey, what's good, Joe? Soul here, and welcome back to the Story Mode. At this point in time, we are just under a week away from the 30th anniversary Pokemon Presents. And, despite all of the worry and gloom and doom that I have probably output over the last couple of videos, I'm still generally looking forward to it. I just want to see whatever they've got cooking up for the next upcoming year, and I really want to see it. And I have absolutely no doubt that you guys probably feel the same. Hence why I figured it was time for one last good community response video before the big day. So, I actually did go ahead and put up a post in the community tab asking you guys what your hopes and fears are in regards to Pokemon Day. Are you more excited or are you more nervous? Is there something in particular that you are looking forward to, or is there something in particular that you are not looking forward to? Tell me everything there, and by this time next week, well, maybe not this time next week because this video is probably going to be out like late this week, but by Tuesday next week, we will have a full response video ready to go for you guys. So let's talk about all of that now. Now, this video in particular is going to be a little more specific because while I do have my expectations and guesses as to what we're going to be seeing for Pokemon Day in particular, I do have a couple of things that I want to see specifically for the Generation 10 reveal. This is the one thing we all know for certain, 1000,000,000% is happening at this Presents. So I think it's pretty fair to put out my hopes and wishes in regards to how they go about showcasing Generation 10, right? Well, maybe not, but we could still have some fun here, right? Why don't I actually go ahead and try to specify what I'm talking about here? So why don't you go ahead, sit down with a nice glass of ginger ale. Go ahead, grab your freshly cooked Mankey meat and dip that in some syrup while we talk about everything that we, or maybe preferably I, really need to see for the Generation 10 reveal. First things first though, do you guys remember the initial reveal trailer for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? At the time, it kind of felt like that trailer came and went because it didn't ultimately feel like it connected to Scarlet and Violet in any significant way. When in reality, not only was it a fun idea, but there were a lot of Easter eggs that were hidden and sprinkled throughout that trailer. We just didn't fully understand those references until way later. And honestly, I'm not mad at the concept. All this to say, I want another fun lead-in trailer kind of like this one. Whether it's live action or not, if we could have it animated, that would be extremely sick. But I would love to have another situation where we have all these really subtle hints and ideas to really chew on throughout the year while we wait for the official release of the game. Something that we could pick apart for a good while to see what we get right and wrong in regards to the games, because I think that would be fun. If they want to be just as cryptic, I guess that's fine. I just really hope that it does provide some actual significance to the game in of itself, but other than that, I just want them to have a little bit of fun with it and give us something really clever. That's all I want. Nothing too crazy about that one, right? Now for this next one, it's something that we've talked about a million times over and something that's probably guaranteed at this point, but I just want to put it out there for safety's sake, and that is consistent frame rate in whatever they show. I would definitely like to imagine that we're well past the point where they would outwardly show us gameplay that's very clearly unfinished and unpolished and stuff like that, especially considering the fact that Generation 10 definitely had an extra year of development time with that year that they took off in 24. So I doubt we're gonna have a situation in which the frame rate is anything lower than 60 minimum, but there is that small part of me that thinks back to previous years when they first showcased Pokemon Legends Arceus, and that first trailer looked atrocious. Oh my god. People were definitely mostly excited about the initial concept of an open zone Pokemon game like that one operating the way that it did, so they were able to overlook a lot of the problems that the trailer showcased, but oh my goodness, that game was rough looking from the get-go. Scarlet and Violet at the very least was a little better, but not by a wide of a margin as you would probably think. Hell, even Game Freak's side project that actually looks pretty interesting still has a couple of frame rate issues in the trailers and gameplay showcases that we've seen. Granted, it's looking a little better every time we see it, but again, that first showcase, for whatever reason, they've had problems nailing it. Even in that first showcase for Pokemon Legends EA, you could definitely tell that the Switch one was struggling a little bit. But I will give credit where credit's due. After they showcased the Switch 2 edition of Legends EA, we never had visual problems like that ever again. It looked very smooth through and through throughout the rest of the year. It's just weird that it took that long to get there, but whatever the case may be, that is and always should have been the bare minimum bottom line. And Generation 10 is pretty much guaranteed Switch 2 exclusive, so yeah, that game needs to look like it at least functions properly off rip. No ifs, ands, or buts, you got it? If you're gonna charge us absurd prices, you need to give us an absurdly decent looking game. No, good looking game. Phenomenal looking game. All in favor, say aye. Everybody's in favor because I, who said it, am the only one in the room. Let's go. Next to that, I have listed here some tight animations, a showcase of quality improvement over Scarlet and Violet. Obviously, it would be absolutely phenomenal if they topped over Legends EA as well, but I'm not really comparing that work as much, only because it was a different team that likely developed Legends EA. I'm not 100% certain how many teams they actually have divvied up over there at Game Freak, but I have to imagine that primarily we have at least 2, given how they've been operating with releases these last couple of years. Maybe they have 3, I don't know. I'm just gonna operate under the assumption that whoever's developing Generation 10 also worked on Scarlet and Violet. So I am praying that they honed their skills a little bit and actually locked in and gave us some tight animations, not just in regards to like the trainers and the battles and stuff like that, which is an important aspect, but also of the world in of itself. I need to see some quality in those trees, in that grass. When they do those little Ken Burn shots of the world, I want to see Pokemon casually fighting each other in the background. I want to see a Sentret run up or down a tree with animations that were specifically designed for that purpose. And if we so happen to get a glimpse of our trainer running by somewhere, I want to see 2 other trainers fighting amongst each other in the overworld. Seriously, I feel like we've lost the plot a little bit here. Other trainers can battle each other. They don't have to just battle me. But if you love losing that much, I ain't gonna stop you. Anyway, I think maybe asking for something equivalent to that Breath of the Wild initial trailer, but with like higher fidelity and things like that, that's not a crazy request, I don't think. I don't know, maybe I just overall want to be a little more impressed by the world in of itself. I don't know. I think I just want to have a situation in which I can actually go to a viewpoint and see the world from atop a cliff or something like that, and things actually look relatively pretty, or at least relatively nice. I feel like we should have had something like that by now for ages, and we still haven't. And now that the games are officially going open world from now on, that's definitely something we need to touch up on as soon as humanly possible. I just hope that this is the game that they took some of that into consideration with. And as far as general animations, you know, after playing the Monster Hunter Stories 3 demo and seeing a little bit of glimpses here and there of Digimon Time Strangers, y'all might hate me a little for saying this, but even at the potential cost of Pokemon in the decks, if we could get a little more dynamic with their individual animations, how they go into battle, how they go out of battle, how they go about attacking, and how we utilize camera angles, man, I'd be down. Going back to Scarlet and Violet gameplay, even after Legends ZA, was kind of jarring because I had completely forgotten how like stiff everything felt, even up to that point. But I really do think it's about time they started getting a little bit wackier about how they showcase battle animations and things like that. I don't know if I can have another situation in which we go into gym battles throughout this game and we have a camera that's mostly stuck behind our Pokemon for the entirety of the battle. Granted, it did change a couple of times here and there throughout the battles, but I think we could get a little more crazy with it. Obviously, for a reveal trailer, I highly doubt that they would show us what an actual in-battle camera would look like or what's even going to be happening with that, but I do imagine a situation in which they could show off like a tease of a battle, and they could probably show a little snippet of something that would tease or hint at the possibility of battles looking and feeling a little different than usual. And all it takes is one really cool, crazy looking animated move that would change the game. I feel like they have it in them to do something nuts. I just really hope we see something like that in the trailer. The next thing that I have listed here is a fun, non-battle related mechanic to look forward to. I could definitely see a situation in which we don't actually see what the mechanic actually is. We'll probably end up talking about it for a good couple of weeks or months before they actually reveal what it is, but I do want a glimpse at something that we could look forward to outside of the Pokemon battles as well. Maybe this one's crazy, but maybe we get a little glimpse at a true Pokemon camp situation in which the trainer is sitting by a campfire and their Pokemon are actively interacting with them. Like, what if Shinx walked up to the trainer and the trainer pet the Shinx? I'm dreaming, I know, but maybe I want to see what that next potential Pokemon and me situation could look like. Hell, maybe I could see an improved Pokestar Studio situation. I, more than anything, would love to see what a 3D Pokeathlon situation could potentially look like for a game like this. Could you imagine having a glimpse of a contest hall? Oh my goodness, don't even get me started, brother. But you're getting what I'm putting down, right? I want to see a glimpse of something that outside of battles, we're gonna be able to look forward to, like delving deeply into when we get our hands on this game. That one other weird mechanic we know for a fact we're gonna be spending all of our time on. Pretty reasonable, huh? After that, I have listed an underground/real cave shot. Correct me if I'm wrong here, maybe I'm misremembering Generation 8, but to my knowledge, I don't think we've seen like actual genuine caves or anything like that since like Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which is still technically a remake. That's the only reason those caves were in there. I mean, technically speaking, if you want to count Legends Arceus, then fine, sure. But I'm talking an actual cave system where we gotta go across water to get to certain Pokeballs. We're going down and up ladders. There's actual trainers in there that are also just as lost as you are. We did have some quote-unquote caves in Scarlet and Violet, but I mean, am I the only one that felt like those were kind of shallow? I want a cave where if we walk in there, we actually have to bust out an electric type Pokemon and they use flash and you could see little sparks around the Pokemon while they're following you so that you could see better in the cave. That's what I'm looking for. I'm getting way ahead of myself here. That's for a mechanics video. Point is, I want a shot of a trainer going down a ladder in a cave. I think that will set the right tone for what I'm trying to get at. I don't think I'm crazy on that one. Next, I want a tease of actual puzzles. Having like a simple shot of a trainer summoning like a Pidgeot and having it use Gust on a switch on the other side of the room or something like that, and it turns a platform or something Legend of Zelda style, man. You could call me crazy, you could call me greedy, you could call me hella simplistic if you want. I actually don't even care at this point. I just always think back to the first or second gym leader in Scarlet and Violet with the little challenge, quote unquote, where you had to push the giant like toy into the basket using the crappy physics engine. No, that's not a puzzle. I'm just saying, bro. Y'all didn't underestimate us when you gave us that ice puzzle in Generation 3 for the 8th gym. I think you can get a little more bold and clever and weird with how you utilize puzzles. And I don't think that that should be a thing that should only be improved in gyms. I think that should be a general thing in the overworld to incentivize us to explore more, to get more items, and to potentially get more legendaries. Which is why I really need that one simple shot of something that could tease actual genuine puzzle solving. Because for a time there, it felt like that was like a very major aspect of Pokemon entirely, and it feels like it's a lost art now for whatever reason. Again, you could say I'm nuts for that, but that's what it's felt like for these last couple generations. Just because we found a more clever way to utilize HMs in modern titles, it doesn't mean that we can't find other fun ways to utilize Pokemon and their moves to get around the overworld. Legends EA felt like it kind of had an idea to do something like that with all of the different like destructible things in the overworld, but for the most part, it didn't really utilize that to its fullest potential. I want that to be fully realized here in a way. Funny enough, I think that might be the least insane thing I've asked for, but we'll play that one by ear. The next two that I have on here are pretty generally obvious and kind of a given, but I'm just gonna put them out there anyway. I want to see a solid blend of new and old Pokemon. For the most part, I think in more recent games, they've done an okay job of balancing which Pokemon have actually made a return. And now Legend ZA has given us like a lot of different Pokemon that we haven't seen in a good minute, like Munna and Musharna and stuff like that. So I feel like for this particular game, I think they really need to make sure they grab a really good handful of Pokemon from each generation, considering the fact that this is Generation 10. This is going to be like the biggest amalgamation of like probably all the games so far. So I have to imagine that's going to be reflected in how many and what kind of Pokemon are going to be available here. But a nice quick like back-to-back shot of like 2 Pokemon that we're already good and well familiar with, a newer regional form for a Pokemon, and then a brand new Pokemon with a crazy looking design already in battle. Boom, and you've set the tone. Also, crazy enough, didn't even think about regional forms until I said that. Please give us some good regional forms. I have an entire video that I'm gonna work on in terms of what Pokemon deserve regional forms for this upcoming game. We'll talk about it later. But at the very least, I feel like it's important to have at minimum at least like 5 or so picks from each generation. Minimum, right? And then obviously they'll balance it based on regional forms and whatever region is closest to this newest region and, you know, how many new Pokemon they decide to add, because that's going to be the biggest factor. But with that being said, I think you fully get the idea. Next, I want to see a real glimpse of the starters in this teaser. I don't want to just see the PNGs. I don't know, maybe I didn't think about it hard enough. Maybe at the time, the way they showcased the original 3 for Scarlet and Violet was like a testament to a theme that I might have missed, but I still think it was a little awkward to showcase it like that. I just want to see a very little glimpse of the new starters in action. Nothing crazy, maybe a 2-second flash of each one, and that is it. I want to see the actual models doing something. Because I don't know, I didn't feel nearly as attached to any of them when I first saw them, but then once I saw them in action, I felt a little differently. Granted, not strongly differently, but a little differently. And I feel like most people will definitely agree that actively seeing the Pokemon, not just their art, will do a lot better in terms of how they feel about them. Or maybe I'm wrong, maybe that's just a me thing. We'll see what happens. Now this one's kind of crazy, but hear me out. If they are going to nostalgia pander to us, just make it something fun. Here's the thing, nostalgia pandering, extremely finicky, especially when it comes to something like Pokemon that's been around for as long as it has, where they do tend to nostalgia pander a lot already. So there's plenty of people out there that would rather have it so that we don't have any nostalgia bait whatsoever involved in this game. I'm gonna sit here and tell you right now, that is completely unrealistic. This game is just way too important. The first double-digit generational title, there's no way they don't do something. I feel like it'd be kind of boring to just showcase red and blue at the end of the trailer again, because they always do stuff like that. Hell, personally, give me old gold and silver, characters we haven't seen in actual generations. Or hell, maybe we could finally find out where Hubert and Hilda went. I guess the simplicity of what I'm trying to say here is don't just throw the obvious at us, is all. I feel like as special as Red and Blue generally are to the series, we've seen them so much more often than most other protagonists of this series that it doesn't feel as special anymore. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure plenty of people would still lose their minds if we saw Red or Blue at the end of that trailer turning around with a Pokeball in hand or something like that, and then it cuts off and then 2026 shows up or whatever, but I think it would be much more unique to see somebody that we actually haven't seen in a very long time. But the long and short of it is, this is too big of a celebration for them not to do some kind of nostalgia pandering, so however you do it, just have fun. No matter how that has to happen. I just want to see the last shot after the initial trailer of somebody's silhouette, somebody we might see as familiar. They turn around, they toss a Pokeball up, maybe a little smirk to the camera or whatever, and then 2026 hits. Simple as that. That being said though, I think that just about does it for most of the things that I want to see, specifically for the Generation 10 reveal. I feel like this definitely ended up being like a semi-half wish list of other things I would like to see too, but we'll go more in proper depth after we've seen the initial trailer, because I think at this point, we'd just be dragging it out, right? We don't know what they're going to showcase. We could make all the predictions in the world. They're all going to be proven or debunked in like a week's time from this point. So it's just like, yeah, let's just wait and see at this point. But hey, you know what? Maybe that's just me. So that about wraps this one up. Next time you see me, it will be for our discussion on all of your guys' hopes and fears in regards to the Pokemon Day Presents and what you guys are looking forward to or in fear of. So, again, make sure to go to the community tab, make sure to put in your input there, and if you are in the Discord, make sure to put your responses in there so that you could get priority if you're already in there. But if you don't care about that, you could do it in the community tab as well. That's totally fine. Also, for anybody that cares, I'm gonna put a link to the Twitch that I actually have access to in the description below. We're gonna be doing a couple of test streams to see, you know, just a little stress test to make sure that everything goes well and good during Pokemon Day next week. So, you know, if you want to hang out for some chill streams, you know, I might be playing, what's it called? Eugenics just came out or something. I want to play that. So we'll be talking a little bit about that on stream or something. So make sure to follow on Twitch because we might do more streams afterwards there, especially throughout the course of this year, because you know how it gets during Pokemon season or like after Pokemon season. So we'll play it by ear. But that being said, I'm passing the mic over to you guys. I want you guys to tell me everything that you're thinking in the comment section below. Do you agree that these are a good couple of ways that the Generation 10 reveal could look a lot better? You think that these things could make it a lot more interesting and you would really look forward to it if they showcased it this way? Or are you completely on the opposite side of things? You don't even want to see Generation 10, but if you have to, this is definitely not the way you would go about it. Tell me everything that you guys are thinking in the comment section below, because you know for a fact that I'm always going to be down there with you guys. But with that, it does appear to be skedaddle o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and do just that. I'd like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this here. And with that, I'm gone. So thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor, taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!